Thanks for tuning in to watch The Ordinary Filmmaker. It's Sunday, December the 26th, 2021. So happy Boxing Day to many of you out there, but if you're not part of a current or former Commonwealth country, you can completely disregard that. Essentially, it's just an extra holiday that we get. But let's get right to today's big news. According to 4/3 rumors, the Nikon Z9 is completely sold out. There are going to be no more units shipped. There's going to be no major stock shipment until October of 2022. 4/3 rumors goes further to say that the worldwide chip shortage and the camera high demand is pushing the next stock shipment to October 2022. And this is bad news for all camera manufacturers. If Nikon can't ship their flagship, I doubt other manufacturers will be able to do any better in 2022. OM Digital and Panasonic surely will have troubles to ship their new flagship OM and GH6 cameras. First of all, who is their source and how accurate is the information? Has it been validated in any way whatsoever? What are other retailers or sources, news sources, stating? And if true, what does this really mean for all manufacturers in general that use chips in 2022? Their source is Yodobashi, and this is the site, and I understand that it's in Japanese, and most of you don't read Japanese. But take a look at this part that I've highlighted in orange down below. I'm going to take that and I'm going to put it into Google Translate, and this is what it says. The next arrival of this item is scheduled for early October 2022. We'll deliver it speedily as soon as it arrives. I want you to take another look at this comment here. It's common in Japanese and Chinese writing that they don't spell things out for the day and the month. They'll have a symbol for year, a symbol for month, and a symbol for day. And in this case, they chose to use symbols for year and month. And what is this numeric for October? It's 10. Well, what if they had accidentally transposed the 01 for 10? Instead of January, it would be October. And January certainly makes more sense. October does seem a little bit far-fetched. But I know what you're thinking. Simon, that's pure conjecture, it's speculation. And you're right. So who is Yodobashi? Well, Yodobashi is actually a large Japanese online retailer. And according to 2016, they had over 5,000 employees across 23 locations, and they've been in business since 1960. So I don't doubt the authenticity of the organization. I didn't find anything surreptitious about anything that they have said in the past. So let's take a look at the information. As I mentioned, sure, they could have transposed the numbers for 01 and 10. It's currently the weekend. It's a major holiday celebration. So we might, if this is incorrect and they put the wrong information down, well, we'd expect to see some sort of correction by Monday. When is it Monday yet? It's not quite Monday, but in a few hours it'll be Monday, the early morning hours of Monday in Asia. What bothered me about this is it just seemed to be going against everything else I'd heard. Yes, the Z9 shipments had started to ramp up. Some people were getting them. So I checked all sources. I did old-fashioned research. I checked news sources. I checked online retailers. Now, there were no news sources that indicated that there was any major delay to the shipments of this camera. So I started checking out online retailers. Now, the first one I checked was Downtown Camera here in Toronto. And as you can see from this website here, while it's priced a little bit more than the US due to the exchange rate, there isn't any indication that it's going to be delayed. There's going to be any significant delay until October 2022. I know Canada isn't exactly the epicenter of camera news and technology innovation, so I next went to B&H in the United States in New York City, New York. And again, take a look here. You don't see any indication that there's going to be any sort of major impact to shipments, any major delay that's going to push it out till 2022. Normally what B&H will do in any sort of situation like this is they'll just say it's not available right now and leave it at that. But that's not what you can see. You can go ahead and purchase it through B&H, through Downtown Camera. I know what you're thinking. Simon, these are just online retailers. What about from the source? What is Nikon saying? Well, I went to Nikon USA, and as you can see here, you can go ahead and purchase the Nikon Z9 from Nikon USA. No indication in any way whatsoever that they're expecting a major delay until October of 2022. It's already approaching Monday in Asia, so I went to look at Nikon Australia. I wanted to see if Nikon Australia had any change in messaging, and they didn't. Here's their site, and no indication of any major delay on the Nikon Z9 to later in 2022. So from all the information, I couldn't validate any other news source or online retailer indicating that the Nikon Z9 is going to be delayed until late 2022. So what could this mean? Well, like I said, it could be an error. They could have transposed 01 for 10, and they're reporting October instead of January. And again, January makes sense. Number two, once a camera gets greenlit by a company, an awful lot of work goes to validating the information, to planning it out. How many units will they be able to make? How many units can they make before they break even? How many units can they expect to ship in this quarter of this year, of this quarter of this year, and so on? How many years out? How long do they expect to sell it? And one of the tools they use is that pre-order. So that quite often they'll announce a camera and they won't ship it until maybe sometimes as many as 3, 4, 5 months later. Sometimes they'll do it right away, but what that pre-order information gives us, it gives them more information about the anticipated demand of the camera. So they might expect in 2022, for example, they might move 10,000 units and they expect 1,000 pre-orders. Now, if the pre-orders are well below that, they may pull back production and say, okay, let's not produce as many Z9s, let's go ramp up the production of the Z8, or let's produce more lenses, or the Z6, the Z7, you get my drift. But I think in this case, it's pretty safe to say that the demand is much greater than expected. But would it be in huge multiples of 5 times or 10 times as many? And I don't know, that's pure conjecture as well. But if they see a huge increase in the number of pre-orders, then what they can do is they can go back to their supply chain and push and push and push to try and get more units to increase or to advance the delivery dates. And that's certainly possible. But also another thing they do is they look at different markets. They'll look at North America and say, okay, North America is going to get this many, South America this, Asia this many, Europe, and so on. And it is very possible that they certainly underestimated the demand in the Japanese market, or even more micro, how much demand this online Japanese retailer would need of the Nikon Z9. Again, it's all conjecture, but right now there is nothing other than this one site stating on a weekend that we're not going to get another shipment until late 2022. So I would take that with a huge grain of salt. I really don't expect the next delay to be until October 2022. They are going out rather slowly. I think the demand is way more than Nikon expected. But as part of this reality check is, you know as well as I do, for the last 2 years, doing business today, producing anything, making anything, ordering anything, is like living in molasses. Everything is slowed down. And I expect 2022 to be no better than 2021. In fact, I'm a little bit more pessimistic. I expect 2022 to be a little bit worse than 2021. You see, and as some of you have accurately pointed out, when I've talked about supply chain shortages, it's not because of the chips. It's not because of shipping containers. It's not because of staffing. It's because of these and many, many other issues that are coming to head and creating a perfect storm. And those chip fabs, that would really help. But those chip fabs, they generally, some of you have said 1 to 2 years. No, it actually can take a good 3 years or more before these, from when they start digging in the ground to when they're in full production. And even then, they have to clear out the backlog. So I do expect the Nikon Z9 to be in short supply in 2022 for the entire year. Look at the Canon EOS R5. I was just checking a week ago and it was completely sold out on B&H, and I was up there today and they're available for sale. Even the R5, which has been out for almost 1.5 years now, is in short supply, continues to be in short supply and high demand. This is kind of the way things are right now, and I think the Nikon Z9 is going to be a very popular camera. Yes, it's a flagship camera. Yes, it doesn't sell as many units as what the Z6 or Z7 would be, or even the R5. The more you go up in price, generally the fewer units you're going to sell. But, and this is a big but here, this is the first professional grade mirrorless camera that Nikon has put out. The R5 did so well with Canon because it was their first professional grade mirrorless camera. It was the first camera that Canon put out that got people who were really serious about their 1D series or their 5D series to say, wow, I'm now ready to move off DSLR into mirrorless. And the Z9 is what Nikon has produced, and it's getting a lot of people with DSLRs to say, I'm ready to move up. And not just people with the D850 or the D800, we're talking about and not just people with a D6 and D5 either. We're talking about people who have the Z6 and Z7 are moving up to this camera as well. And I think that extra $1,000 off helps a lot of those people who were initially in the Z6 and Z7 to look at the Z9 as a potential camera. So there is a huge demand for this camera, and I do expect it's higher than Nikon anticipated. If you've pre-ordered it, you're probably going to get it in the next 3 months. Let me correct that. If you pre-ordered it on the first day, if you pre-ordered after that in the days and weeks, it's anyone's guess. I couldn't give you any accurate information. We just need to pay attention carefully to what Nikon is saying to get a rough idea of when the delivery is. And one thing you can watch too is on sites like B&H, ones that do regularly update shipping times, they're usually pretty good. They're based on the information available today. So as long as online retailers are showing that they're continuing to sell these or let you pre-order these, I don't expect any major delays in shipments. I don't expect the next shipment to be in October. I expect it to maybe be, a couple of months out. I think they're going to be trickled out and try to get these out as quickly as possible. It's going to seem like a trickle based on the demand. Oh, and one other thing too, really important, please go ahead and like and subscribe. It really does help this channel grow. And I take it as a virtual pat on the back, and I'd appreciate you telling your friends as well. And if you have any questions or concerns or comments, put them in the comment section down below. I do my best to review those, and I do answer within a timely manner, especially within the first few hours of publishing this video. Anyways, I'm going to go back to Boxing Day and celebrate. And no, despite what some of you might have pictured, we don't go around punching each other in the face. Go ahead and wiki it. It has something to do with, I wouldn't say, it doesn't go back to medieval times, but it goes back a couple of 100 years or even 100 years ago to do with staff and servants that served the nobility and how a little bit was giving back to them on their day off. So all the nobility had fun on Christmas Day, whereas all the staff were working. And then on Boxing Day, the staff got the day off and nobility would, give them some treats and stuff. So I don't want to give you too much because this is not about Boxing Day. It's about camera news and stuff, but go ahead and find that out. And even for some of you within the Commonwealth, you might not be aware of what Boxing Day is, but I love it because not only do we get Christmas as a stat holiday, but we get the very next day as a stat holiday as well. Although, it doesn't stop my wife from working. She worked Christmas Day and Boxing Day. Anyhow, thanks so much for watching The Ordinary Filmmaker. We'll see you again soon.